Hi, I'm Justin from Arcsky, and today in this video I'll be talking about Arcsky Control, our ground control application for the X55. So in front of me I have the Hearlink controller. It's already turned on. I have an X55 which is also powered on, and the arm button has been pressed so the motors won't make any beeping sounds. And keep in mind, in order to access all of the features and to fully explore the application, you need to have an active connection with the vehicle, and it needs to be powered on, of course. A quick note, some of our earlier X55 models shipped with QGC or Q Ground Control as the default application. Arcsky Control is just a modified version of Q Ground Control. We've removed some of the features that we don't need access to for the X55. We've simplified a few things and also added a few nice features that are specifically tailored for the X55 and the hybrid module. So in the next section, we'll go through each of the components of the application and talk a little bit more about the high-level overview. Okay, first let's open the app by clicking the icon. That'll take a few seconds to boot up. Once it opens, it will start downloading parameters from the aircraft after it establishes the connection. It should typically only take a few seconds here. Okay, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the top toolbar. So on the top left corner, there's a small Arcsky icon, and that's where you access all of the settings of the controller and the aircraft. Next to it is the plan icon. That is the A to B route planning tool. We'll get into that a little bit later. Right after that, you'll see the status of the X55. If you click on it, it will show you all of the different sensor status, and in this case the aircraft is all good, ready to arm. It's been booted up for a while, it has good connection to everything. So if it wasn't, it would tell you which subsystem is still waiting to be normal. Next to that is the flight mode indicator. In this case it's in loiter mode. That's the default mode that the X55 boots up in. Next to that is a speaker icon, and that's your messages tab. That shows you all the information that is sent on boot up, and it's a place where any warnings or error messages will show up. The satellite icon right next to that is showing you the status of the GPS system. The top number is the satellite count, and the bottom number is the degree of precision, which is the accuracy of the GPS at the moment. And you can click into that to get some more information. Next to that is the controller icon, which shows you the telemetry RSSI strength. And immediately to its right is the battery icon, which shows you the current voltage of the system. If you click into it, you can also see the percentage remaining, which is just an estimation. We don't rely on that for any decision making, and a few other things like how much of the actual capacity has been consumed. Next to that is the remote ID status. Green means that it's good to arm and that all of the preconditions are satisfied. I can click into that to get a little more information and close it out just by tapping anywhere on the screen. Now on the top right side, there's an attitude and compass indicator. This shows you your pitch and roll status as well as your heading. At the bottom left there is an FPV video feed, which can be interchanged with the map. So I'm just going to click on that and it will swap views between the FPV and the map. You can also expand it by dragging that little corner up and down. And then you can also hide it by pressing the little arrow in case you want it out of the way. Immediately to the right is a section for telemetry, which shows all of the common parameters that we'd like you to be aware of during flight. And again, you have your battery voltage shown there just to keep that in mind. On the right side of the screen, in the bottom right, you have camera tools, and you can actually change the video source by pressing that gear icon and choosing HDMI 1 or HDMI 2. Now in our case, the internal FPV camera is set up on HDMI 1, and it automatically boots up that way. but if we had a payload, for example, with an HDMI output, that can plug into the external HDMI port on the X55, and in that case we would select HDMI 2. There's a bunch of other video settings. A lot of that is beyond the scope of this video. So that's the high-level overview of the Fly View page. Next, let's go into the settings page by clicking the Arcsky logo, and then I'm going to select Vehicle Setup. So here we see a summary of the vehicle and all of the different settings that are available. Typically we don't focus on this. We're usually coming in here if we want to change something in particular. The next section is radio, and that shows you your joystick and buttons, basically your RC channels. And the most important are roll, pitch, yaw, and throttle, but we calibrate those, so you shouldn't typically have to worry about this. The next is RC options. This is where we set things like flight modes and other functionalities that may be triggered by a button or a switch on the controller. You can see that we have our flight modes, altitude hold, loiter, RTL, and auto set up, and those are tied to our buttons on the HearLink controller. Next we have a sensors page, and we have accelerometer and compass. Typically this is to allow for a calibration in the field, but this is a rare occurrence that you'll need to come in here, typically only under guidance by us, but just know that it does exist. We go into the power tab. We have battery capacity and the minimum arming voltage. So this is our standard battery pack capacity. If you have different flight batteries, this is where you can adjust it, and that will compensate for the different percentage drop that you'll see with different size batteries. Minimum arming voltage is something that we can set up so that the aircraft does not allow you to arm it if you start with batteries that are lower than what you would normally want. Next, in the safety tab, we see the different fail-safe triggers. On the left side, these are all associated with the battery level, and these are our default values, so we recommend that you don't change these. This is here. You should check this before you do a flight. This is part of our pre-flight checklist. On the right are general fail-safe triggers that you also typically won't change unless your application demands something different, and we recommend consulting us first on that. There are some geofence options. Those are not set up by default, but they are commonly set up in the field for various applications. And finally, return to launch settings. So this is the altitude at which the aircraft comes home, and this will need to be reviewed and adjusted based on the mission that you're performing. So these parameters are commonly changed by operators in the field. Now at the bottom left we have parameters, and this is where you can change settings of the aircraft. We don't typically recommend changing these unless you really know what you're doing or you have guidance from us to do so. So that's it for vehicle setup. Now I'm going to go back to the Fly View, and the next section I'm going to go into is the Analyze tools. So the Analyze tools is a place where you can get more advanced information about the system. A typical operator won't have to worry about this, but we just want you to know that it does exist, and there may be a point at some time in the future where we ask you to report back on a value from this page if necessary, but it's not used in 99% of the applications. So again, I'm going to go back to the Fly View, click the Arcsky icon, and then go to Application Settings. So these are where you can change general settings of the app. Things like configuring the default behavior of the app, modifying communication links, downloading offline maps, and a couple other things. We won't dive into the details on how to set up comlinks or download offline maps in this particular video, but we'll have a separate tutorial video later on how to do this sort of thing. So that concludes this video of a high-level overview of Arcsky Control. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about this, and stay tuned for more content in the future. Thanks.